Hi, welcome to my content teaching demonstration. I am here today to talk about imagery and illusion within a poem, specifically T.S. Eliot's poem, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock. My name is Savannah Berry, and I'm glad that you are watching with me and coming on this lesson journey. Here we go. So, first thing, I'd like to ask you a question. What do you think of when you read this? In the room, the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo. I'll let you think about that for a moment. All right, so you're probably wondering, hey, Michelangelo, I learned about him once, right? He's the famous painter person and sculptor? Yes, he is. And this is one of the most famous lines of poetry, and it is by T.S. Eliot, of course. So we're going to think about that a little bit more. What does T.S. Eliot mean with that line, that famous, infamous line? And how can we figure out the meaning? Here's a little image of women coming and going, talking of Michelangelo, and a little image of one of Michelangelo's pieces to recall it to your mind. First, before we get deep into the lesson, I'd like to refresh you on some terms. Imagery is visual language or figurative language, and illusion is a figure of speech or an expression to call something to mind without explicitly saying it. An example of imagery could be this: the odor of the dumpster began to burn his nose hairs. So that brings forth a very prominent image of a very smelly dumpster. And here's an example of an illusion: don't be a Scrooge. So this is used as, someone might say, don't be a Scrooge to you, and they might say that instead of saying, don't behave in a rude way or stop being mean. So that's a way to say that without explicitly saying you're being mean. So now I'm going to read a section of The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock by T.S. Eliot. No, I'm not Prince Hamlet, nor was I meant to be. Am an attendant lord, one that will do to swell a progress, start a scene or two, advise the prince, no doubt, an easy tool, differential, glad to be of use, politic, cautious, and meticulous, full of high sentence, but a bit obtuse, at times, indeed, almost ridiculous, almost, at times, the fool. I grow old, I grow old, I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled. Shall I part my hair behind? Do I dare to eat a peach? I shall wear white flannel trousers and walk upon the beach. I've heard the mermaids singing, each to each. I do not think they will sing to me. All right, so after that reading of that section of the poem, I'd like to discuss some of the imagery or the images that stand out to me and that should stand out to you. This will help you later be able to point out images that are important in literature, either in poems or short stories or novels. So first, let's talk about the I grow old, I shall wear the bottoms of my trousers rolled. This brings an image of the body shrinking, especially in old age. Shall I part my hair behind? So we're thinking about an older man, obviously, and that brings an image of hair loss. And do I dare to eat a peach? So again, we're talking about an older man who's losing his hair, he's shrinking, his trousers are too long. Does he dare to eat a peach? He's losing teeth strength here. And, we think about the beach. Has this image of him walking on the beach and hearing mermaids singing each to each. And so we get a image of sounds and maybe the ocean moving and mermaids singing, but then those sounds stop and so that image is erased. I do not think they will sing to me. So that's very important. Lots of images, one after another, that are very important that T.S. Eliot uses. So now let's talk about the allusion in that section that I read. It's going to be in the front part of the section I read. So he alludes to Prince Hamlet, which we're familiar with. He's saying that he's not important like Prince Hamlet. He's not saying explicitly that he is unimportant, but he is saying, no, I am not Prince Hamlet, nor was I meant to be. So I'm not this important figure, and I wasn't meant to be this important figure. And then he says, full of high sentence, but a bit obtuse. So this is, to me, is alluding to that he speaks about this more in the beginning of the poem about all the that he's well read and the books that he's read and all the literature. And of course we talked about Michelangelo as well. So that's, an educated person. So he's full of high sentence. So he's educated, but it's a bit obtuse. So it's like he's not really, he's educated, he's in this elite society and elite class, but it doesn't really matter. At least to him, it doesn't seem to matter. And he verifies that he thinks that his life and accomplishments don't really matter because he calls himself the fool. He says, at times, indeed, almost ridiculous, almost at times the fool, verifying again that he feels insignificant. So, after reading that very heavy passage and going through the imagery and the allusion, let's go back to the women and Michelangelo. T.S. Eliot uses imagery in the room women come and go. So we can see that, if we're sitting at a party, or we can imagine ourselves at a party sitting in a room and watching women come and go, or people come and go and talking about whatever they're talking about. And T.S. Eliot uses allusion talking of Michelangelo. And here he's alluding to their discussion. So they're talking about a well-known artist. But, this is one of the most famous lines in a poem. And the reason is because the women are coming and going and talking of Michelangelo, but none of it means anything. What's accomplished of that? So T.S. Eliot's use of imagery and allusion in his poem, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock, does not tell you, the reader, explicitly what is going on, but it shows you. It shows you an image, and it allows you to figure that image out. He is not going to tell you he thinks the women discussing Michelangelo are doing so meaninglessly. He's not going to tell you that explicitly. That would ruin the beauty. Nor will he say explicitly how he feels about his life. And of course, this isn't a monologue. This isn't T.S. Eliot. I'm talking about the narrator here. The narrator is not going to tell you explicitly what he thinks about the women talking about Michelangelo or his life. And so as readers, we must be attuned to seeing imagery and allusion and drawing those critical inferences that I drew for you here. And those critical inferences will be put into practice with our activity that we are going to be doing after this lecture, where you will draw inferences and figure out what these images and allusions mean. And then maybe you could even make your own one day, your own poem. So yeah, thank you for joining me, and look forward to teaching you more.